Next on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
It's a look back at some of our favorite stories from Dow AgroSciences. We'll bring you expert tips on range and pasture management from all across the country.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to this week's special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. This week, we're getting some tips from Dow AgroSciences on range and pasture management and how it can help ranchers improve their bottom line. In many areas of the country, as grass gets started, there are weeds coming along even faster and creating intense competition. However, Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Matt Fleck tells us there are actions you can take to get ahead of weeds and grow more forage for your cattle.
The Lightsey Cattle Company is a family operation with a long history, dating back to 1850 in Central Florida.
Our families just seem like ranched forever. That's all we ever talk about. And when I was a little kid, ever since I was a little bitty boy, my dream was to grow up and be a cowboy and marry my childhood sweetheart and raise 3 kids and have a bunch of grandkids and raise big fat Brayford cows and that's happy, and to have beautiful pastures and to kind of give back to the conservation. The land's been good to me. I want to take care of it and make it right.
Taking care of their land and cattle has always been top priority for Kerry and his brother Lane. But they made a big change a little over a decade ago. They quit mowing their pastures to knock weeds down and instead began spraying to control weeds and grow more grass.
In 2015, our cost of applying the herbicide was 1/2 of what it cost our neighbors to mow it 3 months later. You know, the old days of mowing, which was 11 years ago, we still had problems with mowing. You still had stubbles out there and you had less volume of grass. Your cattle wasn't quite as good condition. And now that we herbicide, it seems like we got more yield in the spring going into the summer than what we had before. And the cattle, of course, do better and they conceive better. We won't ever go back to doing summer mowing.
The results at Lightsey Cattle Company are easy to see. Grass is abundant and weeds are tough to find. There are several keys to the Lightsey's success. First, they get out and scout their pastures very early in the season when weeds are just beginning to emerge.
You know, everybody likes to spend a good day while the cattle are grazing to go check their cattle. And that's kind of when I check to see if the weeds are coming on. And I'll just drive around with my head sticking out of the door looking down, and then I mostly see coats foot or dollarweed first. And I get out and just kind of check around, and pretty soon you start seeing a little goat weed or a little dog fennel just coming up. And one thing I found out, if you see one weed, whatever one it is, they're all there sprouted already, all sprout at the same time.
This particular ranch, they scout very early. They look for weeds when they're very, very small, somewhere in the 1 to 2 inch size. That requires getting out of the truck. You have to get out of the truck and actually look for the weeds. When we begin to emerge, they've found that their problem weeds are all emerging about the same time. So they can apply very early. That controls the weeds, sets up well for the dry period that's going to come in about a month.
Then, once the Lightseys know weeds are there and starting to grow, they work with their custom applicator to spray their pastures very early in the season, which in Central Florida usually means spraying in early to mid-March.
Treating weeds early is really beneficial to the rancher because you can actually save some money in that regard. Treating weeds early means different herbicides, different herbicide rates, and it also allows your grass to cover the ground quicker and help that grass compete with weeds that could emerge later in the growing season, hopefully stay ahead of those weeds.
Spraying weeds early in the growing season sets up very nicely for grass to capture the site. One of the things that we see with with weed control, properly timed weed control, early weed control, is the grasses respond very quickly, and then they capture the resources on the site, and they help prevent later germination. So if you can establish that grass, if you can get that grass cover, that'll prevent a lot of later emerging weeds from coming up, along with the residual activity of the herbicide.
To get the control they want, the Lightseeds take advantage of herbicides that offer residual activity, such as Grazon Next HL from Dow AgroSciences. The benefit is one early season application offers season-long control of weeds and an opportunity for more grass to grow.
I think one of the old adages is, a pound of weeds lost is a pound of forage gained. And I believe that's true. When you get into this type of season, when the growing conditions are just starting to ramp up, and you get your forage growing, and you're going to have more forage for those cattle to consume throughout the growing season.
This is a win-win for us. We're saving money. We got more grass for our cattle. And then we noticed that those spots where we did kill the weeds, the small weeds, there was some few little bare spots. And then within 2 weeks, they was covered up with grass that our cattle was grazing.
While planning ahead for weed control works best, even if a producer misses the optimum early application window, the experts say there's still an opportunity and a benefit to spraying pastures for weed control, even when it gets a little later in the season.
Usually in a pasture, there's a mixture of weeds that are problems. So even if you miss some of the early weed problems, there's probably other weeds out there that you're dealing with, kind of either in as a mosaic or just part of the total plant community. So it's never wrong as long as the weeds are not wilting. You can make an application later in the season. Keep in mind that the grass response probably will not be as quick for canopying back over the sites. It'll be a trade-off as far as how much level of control that you're getting, but it's still going to be better than doing nothing.
If you do miss that early window of application, I think there's other programs that we can find. Again, it's going to depend on your weed species, but as the weeds start to increase, we're looking at possibly different products or maybe a little bit stronger in efficacy and probably higher rates as well. So it's not a lost cause. I mean, it's something that we can still combat. And still, if we're in May, we still have 4 or 5 months of good growing weather to get our forages growing and get ground cover and keep those weeds from competing with our forages for the remainder of the year.
For the Lightsey family, the decision to control weeds is an easy one. They see the benefits on their pastures, and the cost of spraying is an investment that pays real dividends.
If a rancher asks me, why does our pastures look like that? And I explained to him we herbicide early in the year, and the money that we save from it, and the volume of grass that we receive from it, and the condition of our cattle maintaining better from having the weeds gone. And I'd like to see other ranchers do it, and it's economically, it's a better way for us to go.
In Central Florida, I'm Matt Fleck, reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
For more information on weed control options, be sure to check out the website rangeandpasture.com. We're not done giving you tips on controlling weeds and growing more grass. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll see how a Georgia cow-calf operation is managing its pastures to control weeds. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Say goodbye to your toughest pasture and rangeland weeds for good. Because one product offers season-long control, handles the widest spectrum of broadleaf weeds, and clears the way for increased forage with greater grazing flexibility. So you get more beef per acre at a cost that can't be beat. It's Grazon Next HL herbicide, and if it's in your pastures, plain and simple, weeds won't be.
No matter what job I've got to do, my John Deere 5E tractor will do it all. Whether I'm cutting, moving feed, or building a fence. Using my 5E means my work gets done faster at a price I can afford, and that works for me.
Saddle up and make your way to Denver, Colorado for the 2017 Cattle Industry Summer Business Meeting. This is your chance to stay up to date on beef industry trends and policies, meet with industry leadership and your fellow cattlemen and women. Plus, you'll get insights on hot topics at the Issues Forums. Mark your calendar for the 2017 Cattle Industry Summer Business Meeting, July 12th to the 15th in Denver. Find out more at beefusa.org.
Welcome back. There's no doubt grass is a critical resource in the beef industry, which is why producers spend so much time and effort keeping pastures healthy and weed-free. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brad Bulla has more on some of the strategies you can use to grow more grass for your cattle.
Each year, cattle producers face challenges, from dealing with weather to improving soil health to controlling weeds. Paul Kelly of Monticello, Georgia, is a fourth-generation cow-calf producer. He's taken his operation and implemented a pasture program that has transformed the forage available for his cattle. And that's been a big help as his pastures recover from severe drought in his area in 2016.
We actually had no grass, yeah. I mean, honestly, it was dust. I mean, when you go through the pasture on the mule and the cows are following you, you could make a Western movie. It was so much dust coming up and your dog running behind you and he throwing up dust. And it was just unbelievable. I mean, an unbelievable drought. But now grass is putting back out. We're killing the weeds. It's going to be a good spring.
Paul says recovering from a drought takes time, but nurturing his pastures and managing them properly are a top priority.
Of course, we soil test yearly. And we try to meet the nutrient needs of the pasture. Just got through spraying Grazon this week to kill broadleaf weeds in our fescue pastures and on our hay fields. And then on our hay fields right now, of course, we graze our Bermuda hay fields during the winter time to graze the ryegrass, voluntary ryegrass off. And our fescue, we do spray them with Grazon for broadleaf in the spring, and we stockpile fescue in the fall for our calves.
Mac Bolin, a cow-calf producer from Madison, Georgia, also sees the importance of weed control in his pastures to produce quality forage for his herd.
It's very important, because what you put into operations, what you're going to get out of it in production, whether it's be forage, beef, row crop. You got to spend money to make money.
Over the past 5 years, Mac and his father have entered the Southeastern Hay Contest and won in 2016. They take great pride in knowing they have quality forage. And Max says that comes partly from having a strong pasture management program.
We do have a pasture program here. We normally rotate between 2,4-D and Grazon from year to year. Depends on week, what we have the infestation of, and what our target pests are. And we try to oversee with ryegrass or ryegrass and wheat or ryegrass and oat combination in the fall.
For producers like these, taking an integrated, proactive approach is one key to growing more grass year in and year out.
The integrated approach to pasture management is really thinking about the whole system. It's thinking about the fertility, it's thinking about the grazing management, and the weed management. It's kind of like a three-legged stool. Those three components, there's not one you can neglect. You have to consider all.
It's really interesting to understand from a soil health perspective that the more grass that we leave, the better the soil is going to end up being. The grass really feeds the soil. And so one of the things I constantly will say is good grazing results in good root development as well as good soil development. So if we're doing a really good job of grazing management, normally we're going to have a really good, healthy soil environment there, as long as we're putting in the inputs and the nutrients to the soil to allow it to really grow.
Working a successful pasture management plan also requires spending time on the lookout for weeds. The experts say scouting pastures needs to start very early in the spring.
Scouting for weeds is increasingly important, especially if we're following a stressful season. For those that have come out of last year's drought, for example, it's extremely important to be out there early in the spring looking for those weeds and really checking to see what kind of weed species that you're dealing with and what kind of pressure you're dealing with. We have some real challenges in this particular area right now And there's a lot of folks that are coming out of the winter that are going to see a lot of weed challenges this spring.
The main thing you're looking for is you're kind of looking for that weed that's not visible from driving by. So you may have to kind of, depending on how much grass growth, you may have to kind of part grass and look for it. Just standing over, finding those thistle rosettes or other weeds that are emerging, and trying to optimize the timing. One of the big advantages is having a history with the site. If you've seen that site for the past 2 years and you've seen weed problems on them, more than likely you're going to have weed problems again this year, and so until they're dealt with. So just recognizing that history, looking for old carcasses of weeds from last year are good indicators of presence or a problem coming up.
Scouting all year long is really, really important. It's important, I think, to go out there at least monthly to see what you're dealing with. You know, the old saying is the best fertilizer for the farm is the farmer's boot print. And I really think it's important for the farmer to get out and take a look at that field and the pastures. Whether it's the hayfield or the pastures, we need to be out there on a regular basis seeing what kind of species we're dealing with and what's coming up as an issue.
Making a plan, getting time on the ground scouting for weeds, and getting expert insight can all work together to get cattle producers on the right track for better pasture management.
My pasture management advice comes from the Extension Service, and they have been an awesome asset to my operation, and they really keep me going with, because I have a lot of questions and they have a lot of knowledge. So the Extension Service does a super job with helping me with pasture management, weed control, soil testing, the whole deal. They do an excellent job.
Cooperative extension is a really neat system, whether it's weed control, whether it's pasture fertility, whether it's forage production in general, or even each species that's grazing those forages. We've got those specialists at the University of Georgia that we can turn to that are great about keeping us up to date with the latest research and the latest non-biased factual information that we can share with our producers, and we can reciprocate by giving them feedback on how it worked in a real life situation.
Taking the necessary steps to identify your pasture needs and getting help from experts is the start to creating an integrated pasture management program. Reporting from Georgia, I'm Brad Bullough for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll get some tips on using an ATV to spray weeds. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay Tough fence will last 3 times longer and is 4 times stronger than low tensile fencing. High tensile wire, solid vertical stays, and tight fixed knots all provide superior strength. You will use fewer posts, saving time, labor, and money. Protect your investment for generations with Stay Tough fence. Stay strong, stay tight, stay tough.
This isn't a 9-to-5 job. So when you check the pens one last time, put away the tools, and make sure everything's ready to hand off to the night crew. It's not the clock that tells you the day is over. It's the confidence of knowing you got it right. It's having one less thing to worry about when the sun goes down. So when you see the signs of BRD, choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health. Talk to your veterinarian about Zuprevo for BRD treatment.
Welcome back. No matter what part of the country you call home, the value of improving your forage is clear. In recent years, there's been a revolution in the use of utility vehicles, or ATVs, as spray rigs to get out on the land and to get better control of weeds and brush in pastures. Charlie Hart from Dow AgroSciences takes us out in the field to share some best management practices when it comes to ATV sprayers.
There's lots of different sprayers that you can buy today, lots of them that are already put together for you, different sizes, different types of boom configurations, different types of tanks and things like that. There's no one size that fits all, but there's a few things on this. This is one I had custom built, and there's a few things on this that I've learned through the years help me from the standpoint of pasture spraying, whether that's brush spraying or weed spraying or whatever. One of the things is that we have a 65-gallon nurse tank, and I don't ever spray out of this tank. It's strictly for water. It's never contaminated with any chemical at all. And then I can fill up 4 different 5-gallon, what we call cone tanks. These cone tanks are really nice because if you've ever been out spraying in a flat bottom or a round bottom type tank like the nurse tank back here, when you're going out there back and forth in the pasture, it's really hard to positive drain those. These you get positive drain of really no matter what kind of terrain you're in. So you can take these all the way down until you're spraying air, and that's a very good thing when it comes to tanks in terms of weed spraying and brush spraying. Lots of different types of pumps that you can get as well. What I chose to go with are electric pumps. I have a separate electric pump for the nurse tank and another pump for the sprayer itself. Okay, these are 12-volt pumps. One of the things that you need to be sure of is to match the pump volume with the nozzling configuration that you decide to use. Okay, all the nozzles will have charts with them. It'll tell you the flow requirement for the nozzles. Make sure that your pump gets you the right kind of flow that you need for the type of nozzle that you're going to get. What you see here is a boomless nozzle, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but you can also get boom type nozzles where you fold the booms out. The problems with those out on pasture and rangeland is when you're going in and out of rough areas, those things will jump around on you, and they get caught in the brush and other things like that. So where I've actually got a boomless sprayer on either side of this, or boomless nozzles, and then flat fan nozzles in the center, okay? And so with this, I can actually, I'm not any wider than my vehicle, which means that if I can get my vehicle through it from a brush standpoint, I'm not gonna be dragging the boom on anything. But yet I can spray about a 30-foot swath with this application technique right here. Another thing that's important on these larger rigs is to be able to have control of the sprayer from the cab of the vehicle. We can have just an on-off switch like we have over here. Simply turns the pump on and off. And then we can have controllers here that actually shows you your boom pressure, and you're able to turn on and off different parts of the boom. Nozzles also have to have a specific height above their target. And again, as you look at the nozzle and you look at those manufacturer specifications, it'll tell you how high above your target that you need to be. So one of the things that really is helpful is to have a boom that is adjustable, so that if I'm going out and spraying weeds that are short, not very tall, I can actually drop this boom down, level it out, and spray lower to the ground. Or like we're going to try to do today, I can bring this up higher and get it above prickly pear plants and spray prickly pear as well. Another good aspect of a sprayer is to have a good handheld wand on it as well. There's lots of different types of nozzles and lots of different types of hand wands that you can use and you can get. But in general, just having a good size hose on it, actually you can get one that has a reel on it if you want to invest in that, and go up to about 25, 30 feet long of hose as well. But this allows you to do spot spraying. As we think about controlling weeds and brush in our pasture and do-it-yourself type of applications, and it's a way that we can get out and actually control mesquite, prickly pear, weeds, or whatever in our pastures, and help us grow more grass, help us grow more forage for our cattle, as well as improve the condition of our rangeland for wildlife.
Want to rewatch an episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen or catch up on anything you've missed? Then visit our YouTube page. You'll find replays of all of our shows, including the Dow AgroSciences educational segments from around the country. So check us out at youtube.com/Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll look at how fescue toxicosis can harm a rancher's bottom line and what you can do to protect your cattle. Plus, we'll check in with the always entertaining cowboy poet, Baxter Black. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
Say goodbye to your toughest pasture and rangeland weeds for good. Because one product offers season-long control, handles the widest spectrum of broadleaf weeds, and clears the way for increased forage with greater grazing flexibility. So you get more beef per acre at a cost that can't be beat. It's Grazon Next HL herbicide, and if it's in your pastures, plain and simple, weeds won't be.
Do you know all you need to about working cattle? Did you know there are proven methods that can reduce stress for the animals, for you, and for your crew? Learn from the experts who can help sharpen your stockmanship and stewardship skills. By attending a stockmanship and stewardship event, you'll learn proven ways to work cattle more efficiently, skills that can help put more money in your pocket. Find out more and locate a training session near you at the website stockmanshipandstewardship.org.
Out here, we're hostile, cold, and cruel. Our way of life. There's no better way to live. Guts, glory, ram.
You're watching NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen on RFD TV.
Welcome back. In states where tall fescue grows, toxicosis can present a real challenge to a herd's health and productivity during the hot season. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brian Baxter has more on a management strategy producers can use to help deal with these challenges.
You can't help but be impressed with the green pastures and good-looking cows that call Circle A Angus in southwest Missouri home. This is an operation that was founded in the early 1990s and has been on the grow ever since.
The genetics that we've been working on for the last 2+ decades has been for efficiency and profitability. So that's been our focus, is really trying to get cattle and genetics to fit our environment that we hopefully will help impact profitability for other producers across the United States, wherever they may be.
Today, Circle A Angus is home to more than 7,500 purebred Angus cows spread across more than 25,000 acres. The Circle A team works to maximize their stocking rates to get the most from their grass. But a serious challenge every year is dealing with the issues caused by tall fescue.
Fescue toxicosis is probably the leading thing to losing revenue, and that would be coming through not fertility, but actually the ability to breed by a spiked temperature in that animal. And then of course, you know, if you have grass out there and the animals need to consume it, if their temperature is elevated by fescue toxicity, they're going to want to shade up or find water, which would lead to more herd health problems, you know, whether it be foot rot or just, you know, a temperature that would create more respiratory situations for that animal or its calves. So you have decreased fertility, decreased milk production, and then grazing time.
We also know that fescue has a cost to reproductive performance. Your calving rates can drop down 25 to 50%. And so the cost in overall calf production, the weaning weights, it's all associated with fescue toxicosis. Fescue toxicosis is caused by ergot alkaloids produced by a fungal endophyte that infects Kentucky 31 tall fescue. It costs the industry, the cattle industry, about $1 billion a year.
Now there's another management strategy that reduces the impact of fescue toxicosis. Research and trials conducted at Circle A Angus and other locations show that by applying chaparral herbicide early in the spring, tall fescue seed heads, where the toxin is most prevalent, can be suppressed.
The seed-headed suppression is important because that's where your toxicosis starts from. All that energy that would go into a stem or go into a seed head is now going into foliage that is more palatable, higher quality protein, as I understand it.
What chaparral allows us to do is to go in and suppress the seed head on tall fescue. So making an application within a 2 to 3 week time frame before the seed heads actually emerge on fescue keeps the fescue seed heads from actually coming out. And so when we get into mid-May, late May, we have a pasture, if it is straight Kentucky 31 or these wild type fescues, we have a pasture that is in a very high quality vegetative state.
At Circle A Angus, they used chaparral to treat 1,200 acres in 2014 and then increased the treatment area to more than 10,000 acres in 2015. Time after time at Circle A and other locations, the results of using chaparral for fescue seed head suppression were clear.
We saw almost a 5 to 6% bump in conception rate. We saw anywhere from 20 to 30 pounds of gain on cattle on control pastures compared to chaparral treated pastures. And then just the overall length of grazing, it was able to stay viable for those cattle all the way through into August until we start getting fall rains again.
So suppressing seed heads with chaparral, it's not uncommon for us to see at least 90 to 95% suppression of the tall fescue seed heads. And how that plays out in the field in terms of production of cattle, we see it almost completely mitigating the issues with toxicosis in the summer. So our cattle are out grazing in the hotter parts of the day where normally they'd be standing in the shade. We're seeing better body condition on cattle because they're able to graze more. We're seeing better stocker performance on our stocker cattle, and we're also weaning heavier calves.
Beyond tackling the fescue toxicosis issue, the use of chaparral also delivers value when it comes to taking out weeds and making room for more grass.
What's really neat, I think most producers can go out in their field and find that they need weed control to some level or another. And to go into a fescue pasture that already has issues with toxicosis and being able to go in and control the weeds and also mitigate the effects of toxicosis on the cattle, it's a win-win situation.
I can tell you that chaparral has eliminated 95% of the weeds in our pasture. It has enhanced our cattle grazability because of the seed suppression. The cattle want to stay out and graze longer and come out earlier. And chaparral has also done, I think, a good job of suppressing that seed to where the nutrition in the blade of grass is greater.
As with many other tasks on the farm or ranch, when it comes to tall fescue seed head suppression with chaparral, application timing is everything.
Performing an application of chaparral within 2 to 3 weeks of seed head emergence is critical. During that time frame, we get the best seed head suppression and we get probably the best weed control. Now, as far as timing and preferred timing, it would be as close to seed head emergence as possible without actually having seed head emerge in the field.
Help in managing tall fescue, removing weeds, and growing more grass on the same acres are all results that will keep chaparral in the toolbox at Circle A Angus.
We'll go back and use chaparral again. And using chaparral has helped us, in so many ways, let alone the seed suppression is a great benefit. So we're getting dual action out of chaparral with the seed suppression plus killing all the weeds out there. So with that being said, why wouldn't you try to do that? Because you're killing two birds, so to speak, with one stone. And that goes back to us trying to be as efficient as we can. It has worked really well for us, and I think it'll work very well for anybody else trying to gain the same type of goals that you are and trying to increase fertility, reduce the heat in your type of cattle from the fescue toxicosis and, weight gain. It's all about weaning off a better and bigger calf.
At Circle A Angus in southwest Missouri, I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
If you'd like to learn more about what's happening with NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, you can find us on Facebook. Be sure to like our page and we'll keep you updated with photos, details on upcoming shows, and much more. And it's a great way to connect with other cattlemen and women all across the country. So check us out on Facebook. Still ahead, we'll have the latest from Baxter Black. Plus, we'll explain how Dow AgroSciences is working with extension specialists to help producers grow more grass. Stay with us.
No storm is too powerful for New Purina Wind and Rain Storm Minerals, formulated with ultimate weather resistance. That means more minerals in the feeder and available to your cattle. Wind and rainstorm minerals provide more consistent intake and balanced mineral nutrition to optimize herd health and breedback rates. See the difference at your local Purina dealer or visit cattlenutrition.com. Wind and rainstorm minerals, another way Purina is building better cattle.
What does it mean to be dependable? It means you do what you say you'll do time and time again. Because performance isn't optional, and your task is essential. For over 95 years, we have proven ourselves to be the most dependable choice. That's why the cattlemen of this great nation trust Ritchie to provide fresh water on demand. Ritchie, proud to be a partner to the American cattlemen since 1921.
Welcome back. Collaboration is a key to success in any business, and agriculture is no exception. Brad Bulla takes us to Central Florida to explain how Dow AgroSciences is partnering with extension specialists to help ranchers improve their pastures and their bottom lines.
Growing more grass gives cattle producers their lowest cost opportunity to put more pounds on their cattle. Developing strategies to improve pasture performance was one of the goals for the annual Pasture Summit, a gathering held in Central Florida that brought together weed, forage, and beef specialists from all over the country.
The Pasture Summit came about because we needed to have a kind of a collective view of the U.S. In terms of what are the issues that people are dealing with and how Dow can maybe provide some support to universities or some of our private contractors to kind of help solve these issues in our pastures.
So working with Extension, they see a lot of things out in the field day in and day out that maybe we wouldn't see at Dow AgroSciences. What are they seeing out there? What are the challenges that are facing them not only today but into the future? And what we do is we'll take that information back, we'll analyze what we heard, and that helps us understand what we should be focusing on for the future, so we make sure that we bring the right products to deliver the right solutions, which ultimately is going to increase production for that end user.
Knowing that extension specialists are the boots on the ground, Dow AgroSciences field scientists are committed to supporting the partnership with these experts in order to develop real-world solutions to improve grass and forage performance.
I think it's really a team approach because industry is going to reach individuals that myself and Extension aren't going to reach. I'm going to be able to reach individuals they're not going to be able to reach, and they sometimes have resources to do things I can't do and vice versa. And so if we can work together and have some of these meetings like this Pasture Summit where we're all sitting at the table and sharing ideas, that's where we really make this big leap to the next stage with some of our efforts, and that's really the value that I see in working with industry.
Our extension specialists are just, they're spread very thin, but they do a fantastic job. They have the close connection with the producers. They are educating, they're helping them understand how to take the information that we collectively develop and disseminate it to their producers in their states. And so they're just a valuable resource to make sure that the producers are fed all the proper information and understand how to implement a program approach to weed management and pasture management.
The Pasture Summit in Florida also included a field visit to see what's working for the land and cattle at the Deseret Ranch. A major focus of the summit was to exchange ideas about the best strategies to help producers better control weeds and manage their forage.
So that's one of the things that we really have to talk to our producers about, that just because it's green doesn't mean it's grass, and really getting out. I've started talking to producers and I tell them we need to take the goal approach. Let's stop looking from our truck window and let's get out and look. So that's where you get the goal, and actually get into our pastures and see what we have there. If we start really implementing strategic weed management into our pastures, we really see a lot of more production, and more production equals more pounds and more dollars.
One of the things that we try to do also is to give people examples of producers that have incorporated weed management into a regular approach. One of the themes of this year's meeting is being more proactive about weed management within a pasture. It's very easy to become more reactive, so that, oh my goodness, there's a weed problem there, and I need to do something about it. More than likely that weed problem's been there all along. And I think that one of the examples that we've seen in this meeting is just an example of a producer that has turned that into a very proactive approach, goes in and does their weed management very early in the year, gets the forage response, increases the stocking rate, puts it all together and turns it into a more profitable program.
So obviously, if a weed is outcompeting the desired crop, the crop is not there for production in order for feed for the animal. So, you know, the less food that's in the field or feed that's in the field, the weeds are going to take that over, and just the bottom line, you're wasting the space that the forage is being grown on.
When people are hesitant to think about forage resources, I put it to them like this. Our pastures are a valuable piece of real estate. And a lot of times if we want more acres to graze, we think about either renting land or buying land. And a lot of times herbicide is a much cheaper solution than going out and renting the neighbor's pasture or buying that other piece of land. It's the herbicide application is the cheapest way to buy real estate, in my opinion, on the farm. And so people that are kind of struggling with how do I increase the size of my cow herd and do I want to invest in the pasture, I think that's one of the first steps is one, reclaim the pasture that you have.
With a commitment to producer success, both the extension agents and Dow AgroSciences scientists appreciate the exchange of information between the groups that will ultimately help producers identify and utilize better management tools and systems.
We get to see some of the new information that the weed specialists are doing with herbicides, which translates in information that we can pass to producers, but we can also use it to get new ideas and test new products in our settings, and also use those as a tool to train county personnel, county agents that might be working directly with those producers. So allow us to filter a lot of information back to the producer through different venues.
I get the knowledge and I get ideas. And so, you know, it'd be great if all the producers were here at Deseret and seeing firsthand what's happening, but they're not. I'm the one that's here. So a lot of times what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna work with my local Dow rep. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna set up demonstrations on farms where I have similar problems, similar setups. And we're gonna put out some plot work there and then bring in some producers from local farms in the area, the region, and have them come see firsthand again. Just kind of recreate some of this stuff, maybe some different weed issues we're having, but nonetheless, setting up those demonstration plots, sometimes that's the best educational tool I can have.
At the end of the day, hopefully it means increased revenue, right? If they can grow more grass, produce more animals on less land, and have more forages there, essentially they're not having to go off farm and get those forages somewhere else. So it's really important, especially as a lot of markets continue to fluctuate up and down. In the down times, that return on your investment, even in the up times, return on your investment is very important. So that's what we ultimately are trying to do, is get them a better return on their investment. So Extension and Dow AgroSciences working together allows us to educate more folks and bring solutions. And ultimately, we want to grow more grass. And what that allows us to do is have them grow more beef, feed more animals per acre. So it's really a win-win situation. But without the partnerships, we wouldn't be able to do that alone.
Reporting from the Pasture Summit in Central Florida, I'm Brad Bullough for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Don't forget to learn more about Dow AgroSciences research and development of range and pasture solutions for cattle producers. Visit their website at rangeandpasture.com. Up next, it's time once again for our good friend Baxter Black. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Want more profit out of your pasture? Then here's our 2 cents on using parasite control to make some dollars. In a trial of calves, Long Range outperformed Sidectin and Safeguard dewormers combined by as much as an extra 40 pounds. Yeah, that's a lot of extra profit, and that's why it pays to treat cattle with Long Range. Do not treat within 48 days of slaughter. Not for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows or in veal calves. Post-injection site damage can occur. These reactions have disappeared without treatment. You can't afford another season without Long Range.
Blaze a trail to Phoenix, Arizona and the 2018 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. It's the cattle industry's biggest convention with education, networking, and fun. Plus, you can check out the huge NCBA Trade Show, outstanding entertainment, and more. Don't miss the 2018 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show in Phoenix, January 31st through February 2nd. Visit beefusa.org for more.
If you're allergic to progress, I'll catch you later. How important is it for your vaccine, medicine, and pour-on to be accurately administered? I mean, does a 376-pounder get the same medicine as a 400-pounder behind him? And how about your pour-on? Cows can easily differ 100 pounds. Tapari has a pistol grip that automatically calculates the specific doses. It's amazing. You betcha. Squeeze chute required. Check it out. Tapari.com. We know you're up before the dawn, because the cattle rise before the sun. And you spend long hours in the saddle because the herd isn't always over the next rise. And you care for the land because you know it takes care of your family. And we know you do great work. And it's time to tell that story to the marketplace. IMI Global is here to help you do just that.
A turkey's thoughts at Thanksgiving. I always thought I'd do more with my life, become a writer maybe, but it was hard to hold a pencil, and I couldn't find a typewriter with the turkey alphabet. It only has 5 letters, counting the double B, and it didn't seem quite right to use a quill. Like any young poult, I entertained the idea of becoming a fireman, till I found out I was flammable. As I matured, I became active in worthy causes like Free Tom and the Turkey Anti-Defamation Society and the 2-kilometer turkey trot to benefit the Dumb Friends League. And of course, how could I forget the anti-Subway sandwich protest? We held a sit-down strike in front of the local Subway till most of us got run over. But it all went by so quickly. And now I'm in the prime of life, and I look at my contemporaries. We've all grown and have big plans. I've been working on an International Turkey Olympics. Maybe hold it in Ankara with events like head bobbing, track leaving, egg laying for weight and distance. I know lots of people don't give the turkey's point of view much thought. They just assume we spend all day gobbling at each other and eating bugs and staring into space. In my case, I spend most of my time trying to think. Anything, just trying to think anything, and when I put my mind on it, sometimes I get an idea, as you can tell. The hard part is trying to remember it. Did I mention politics? I know, some may believe there's already too many turkeys in office, but I think I might have a chance if I could just establish residence in Florida. Oh well, people are talking about Thanksgiving. Everybody's going home for the holidays. Turkeys are a big part of it, I'm told. I'm not sure exactly what it is we do, but I hope we do it well, and that our contribution is appreciated. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks, Baxter. We always enjoy your segments. We'll have more Cattlemen to Cattlemen right after this. Stay with us.
There are many great reasons to join NCBA, and that includes exclusive NCBA member-only discounts, such as savings up to $2,500 on new equipment purchases from John Deere.
We at John Deere are proud to be sponsors of the NCBA. We've been long-term sponsors and have been in the livestock business for over 125 years. John Deere has a wide variety of products that support you in the industry. We have a wide variety of discounts that are exclusive to you as NCBA members. You can visit our John Deere dealers locally throughout the United States to be able to find those specific discounts and the products that would apply to your needs. So thank you for being an NCBA member and allowing us to support you.
Saving big money on equipment purchases from John Deere is just one of the great deals you get as an NCBA member. Don't miss out. Join NCBA today at beefusa.org.
Welcome back. It's important to remember that all of us in the beef industry are stronger together than we are alone. So consider becoming a member of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association to unite with others who share your values and want to protect the way of life in the cattle industry. To join NCBA, just call 1-866-USA-BEEF or go to the website beefusa.org. It's time once again for Legacy Photos, as we get a chance to see some amazing images from farms and ranches across our country. Let's take a look. Want to see your photo on Cattlemen to Cattlemen? You can submit your favorite shots at our website, cattlementocattlemen.org. Include your ranch or farm name and hometown, and we may use them on a future episode. Well, that's our time for this week's special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.